What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock, what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with SPY and the QQQ and many other tickers out there. Let's talk about what's happening with the markets right now and levels you should be watching for. I'm also going to break down why Tesla's green right now in the pre-market as another bullish piece of news just came out. Before I break anything down about all this information, and before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things real quick. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And finally, don't forget about the Moomoo link, which is down below in the description. You sign up for Moomoo and put in $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 10 free stocks. And it could be a free Tesla share. The offer ends very soon. Anyways, let's talk about Tesla. Let's talk about the markets. What on earth is going on? So right now, Tesla's up about 1.68% for the day, which is like great and all, but the problem is I am seeing a bearish divergence in the process of developing. Now, I always tell you guys that does not mean Tesla has to sell off immediately. I could try to hold these levels for some time, but as long as this is valid, I would be very cautious. However, we need confirmation of downside for us to confirm any move to the downside or even like start playing it. And for now, we don't have too much confirmation just yet because once again, Tesla's holding these higher levels. It's holding this chop zone quite nicely. Why is Tesla green? Because a new piece of news just came out. Tesla's Chinese sales are up 142% in May. That is incredible news moving forward. Now, even though I told you guys that we were getting lots of bearish looking technicals on the QQQ, we have to wait for confirmation. The QQQ is a little bit red, which could slow Tesla down, and Tesla does have this bearish divergence developing. So the odds do favor Tesla eventually cooling off, but because there's also this Apple event and the market's trying to hold up and Apple's holding up too for the time being, the market may hold up for an extended period of time before we start to get any decent sized pullback. Because now Apple has this event that was announced very recently. It's going to be taking place at about 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, which is like 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. And they're going to be launching potentially new products and new updates, which is going to be huge. Apple is near all-time highs because of this, and this is helping the market hold up for now. But don't forget the fact that the market is still very overextended, and we still have some sell signals which are very valid on the tech side, especially for like the QQQs. But anyways, let's talk about some data. Let me remind you guys that in the morning, okay, 15 minutes after the market opens, we're going to see some PMI data coming out for the PMI services. And then for the ISM services at 10 o'clock a.m. All of this data is going to be very important for looking at the economy and whether or not we're seeing different sectors contracting or not, which is very common during a recession. This is all important for the Fed, so expect lots of volatility 15 minutes and 30 minutes after open. For now, the market's holding up, but don't forget about the news that came out about oil potentially getting some cuts, which tends to be negative for the markets. The market's not reacting to it for now. And for now, that's great for the bulls. I mean, it's great that the market's not getting this big sell off because of this for now, but this could lead to some negative outcomes later on. It's a possibility. I just want to warn you about it. It's always important to be prepared. But for now, let's talk about what the charts are telling us. Now, on SPY, the trend is starting to flip on the PPO, favoring the bears just a little bit more on the 1 hour and the 30 minute time frame. However, despite this bearish crossover on our PPO, the market is continuing to hold up, which is very, very interesting. And we're very close to overbought territory on SPY in the 30 minutes and also on the 1 hour time frames. Now, let me just add that before we talk about like the market potentially coming down or going up, you always have to watch for levels. You have to watch levels for confirmation. So if SPY breaks this 428.74 level, the high of the day for Friday, expect this thing to fly a little bit higher. We could make our way up to about this 429 to 430 area, but we have heavy resistance around 430. Now, why could this happen? Apple could technically contribute to it, but it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be some very tough resistance. But even if that does happen, I'm still not going to be buying at these very high levels. I'm going to be very careful because looking at it, the RSI in the 1 hour time frame, for instance, is currently at 76, which is very, very high. I mean, we rarely ever see it hold an RSI that's this high for a very long time. If you look at the last few months, it just keeps getting rejected eventually when we see the RSI that high. That's one of the reasons. Additionally, we have a bearish cross on the PPOs and the market's overextended. It needs to cool off soon. So yes, it could pump a little bit more thanks to Apple. That's a possibility. I mentioned this possibility yesterday. Watch the high of the day as confirmation. But eventually, even if we do get one more pump, we're eventually going to make our way down. And I'm going to be watching support at this 427.5 area. Now, if that ends up failing, okay, we're going to see SPY come all the way down to 426 to 425, and potentially even lower than that into the 423 points, basically 424 area. That's where the 1 hour 50 EMA happens to be. Okay, so watch for confirmation. You have to watch these levels very carefully, okay? It could pump a little bit more thanks to Apple, but later on, I am anticipating a decent sized pullback. It's likely going to come soon, so be careful. As far as Tesla goes, it's continuing to pump in the pre-market. Now it's trying to fight for this 217.83 resistance, the zone around there. It actually touched 218 that got rejected. But for now, Tesla's fighting, is trying to break out. That's because of some very bullish news from the Chinese sector. They killed it in China. I'm very proud of Tesla. This is why Tesla's pumping. And we're about to get a bullish cross now on the PPO. Now, when I was looking at the technicals yesterday, I did not know about this news coming out, and this news is trumping the technicals for now. But don't forget, there is a bearish divergence still in the process of developing. Now, if Tesla keeps pumping, it could invalidate this bearish divergence. But as the QQQ weakens, because the QQQ is a little red, I'm anticipating that eventually this will slow Tesla down later on during the week. I'm still anticipating and holding my stance. But if Tesla breaks and holds this 218 resistance, if we could manage to push through this chop zone, we could see Tesla approach 220, then potentially 222.5, a little bit higher than before. Those are going to be some resistance levels to watch for. If Tesla gets rejected, okay, you have to be watching this first off, 217 is going to act as some support now that we're above it. If that fails, we're going to be watching 214, 212.5, then this 209 to 210 area. We have this imbalance down here, so eventually the algos are going to bring Tesla down to this level, but it could take a little bit longer for that to happen because once again, a new piece of news came out. I didn't know this news was coming out yesterday. Uh, so now it's going to change things a bit, and sometimes that happens, guys. I can't really predict every piece of news perfectly. So what I'm leaning towards is just watching these levels. It could hold up around this chop zone, if not pump a little bit more, thanks to Apple. Apple's pumping and looking pretty strong, and it's helping the market hold up. But then later on in like the near term future, you have to consider that it's developing this bearish divergence. This could end up playing out later, as soon as like tomorrow or even like later on today. And then also the QQQ has an even bigger bearish divergence that's developing for now. It needs to break and hold 356 to try to invalidate it and continue to pump. For now, it's failing to do so. It's just starting to chop around a bit. It's getting a little bit weaker. Uh, if this thing breaks below 353 and it starts hovering around that area and it starts just downtrending, it's likely going to come all the way back down to 350, and that's going to slow down the entire market, or at least a lot of the tech sector. The same thing is going to translate in the NASDAQ, by the way. So watch 353 on the QQQ as support. As major resistance to turn very bullish, it needs to break and hold 356. Okay, and we need to see bullish signals. For now, the momentum is starting to heavily shift in favor of the bears, so be very careful. As for Tesla, if this does start selling off soon, it's going to slow Tesla down just a little bit. Tesla has some relative strength, though, thanks to the news. So I could see Tesla pumping a little bit more and trying to hold for an extended period of time before potentially slowing down thanks to the NASDAQ and the QQQ a little bit later on. Okay, so make sure you watch those levels carefully. Make sure you watch spying the QQQ and all those levels I mentioned. And as for, let me just talk about Nvda real quick. I know people are curious about it. It's a little bit red in the pre-market. It's trying to hold support at this 385 zone, but there is a bearish cross right here, so we're gonna get a weak opening for Nvda. Not looking the best, but if anything, it's getting very close to support, closer to this like 377.8 to 380 area. So we might see Nvidia test that and try to make a bounce thanks to Apple. But then after that, if the QQQ starts selling off later on, which I believe it most likely will, later on, it could happen as soon as today, if not later on during the week. This may slow Nvidia down even more alongside many of the tech sectors. So be very careful on Nvidia for the later part of this week. Same thing with Tesla. Yes, Tesla could hold up thanks to the Chinese news. It could try to hold up for the time being, but later on, I'd be very careful. Don't forget about this bearish divergence that's developing for now, and don't forget about the bigger signals I was showing you guys later on the QQQ and the NASDAQ, right? There is technically another bearish divergence on Tesla that's still valid, an even bigger one, but there's no confirmation of Tesla downtrending yet. We have to wait for confirmation. So that's why I keep stressing the importance of watching the different levels. Okay? We're in the chop zone for now, so watch it carefully. And with that said, thank you all for listening. Get ready for the pre-market. Tesla to the moon. Alongside the whole market, the long term is very bright. Watch the levels, and peace out.